Well, some of the things that we did to the car after we got it from Chuck were we called up Precision Turbo and got a set of the billet wheel turbos. We've tried a couple different exhaust housings just to see which one would work the best for us. We're limited to the size turbo, but basically Harry from Precision Turbo makes the turbos that seem to hold all the records in this class anyways, so what's the sense in shopping around? Just buy the best ones and be done with it. We also had to put a boost controller on because Chuck Samuel didn't really use a boost controller. He had a clutch in the car at the time, so he was able to limit the amount of power that went to the ground via making changes to gearing and the clutches. So we decided to wire in an AMS 1000 into our engine management. Some of the stuff that was done to this car that's just the coolest stuff in the world. I love the fact that this engine can be out of the car in 20 minutes. Chuck made it so that basically everything's either quick disconnect, like the radiator can come out in a second by disconnecting a pin and pulling it straight out. A couple bolts hold the motor plates in. There's tubing with V-band clamps here and here. Basically, the motor can come forward 6 inches and straight up. It can be out of the car in no time. The wiring is held on the car. You know, that's all the wiring for the engine. All the sensors that are monitored through the computer, like the big stuff or the race pack. All the connections for that are picked up via a junction block on the firewall. So the oil pressure, the fuel pressure, the boost pressure, the manifold vacuum, that's all onto this junction block, and then all the wiring to the computer and to the big stuff all comes off the bottom of it. That helps you for when you're pulling the engine in and out. You don't have a bunch of wiring hooked up to the engine. Basically, you just have braided steel lines that you disconnect and lay to the side. It's a 510 cubic inch motor that we did a couple years back at Fast Times. It's basically just all the good guy stuff. It's got the pro stock heads. It's just your basic good guy motor. It's not a simple motor. It's a pretty nice piece. We don't know. We never did dyno this engine, to be honest with you, so I don't really know what the maximum power level is yet. We might do that over the spring, but I don't know yet. First, we want to find out if we can get the car down the track. Some of the other things that was done on the car is it's a very low manifold, and you'll notice there's an angle coming in for the throttle bodies. These are basically throttle bodies, by the way, that would bolt right on a Mustang. We just ran 2 of them. We did that for hood clearance and to keep the air over the car. We didn't want a big hood scoop sticking up on this car. All the tubing is really well thought out, from V-band clamps to a silicone hose. But what's happening is when boost levels build up, they try to pull these hoses out. Chuck actually went out of his way to design the tubing system on this car so that one tube runs into the other tube before it pulls out. It's really an ingenious setup, the way Chuck went out of his way to build everything so that this car works simply yet can come apart quickly. He really did a nice job. It was Clay from Chassis Engineering really did a nice job. There's things on this car like all these little places to mount pucks for lead. You got to remember, on a car like this, moving 5 pounds of weight around different places on the car could make differences on where the car drives, whether it drives left, right, pops a wheelie, doesn't pop a wheelie. These are keys to be able to tune your car without making drastic changes in the suspension. You just hang a little bit of weight here and there. I mean, if you look at it, on the front of this car, there's brackets to mount 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different pucks. That's pretty incredible, Just right on that, the diving board, or whatever they're going to call it on this car, the place that hangs out front where you're going to hang weight. Down here is where the solenoids are for the boost control, for the AMS 1000. We made a little plate, mounted it to one of those tabs, and then along here, if you notice, this mates up, these connections mate up with when we put the front end on the car. That way the front end has high beam, low beam lights, and they just push it on. And that's basically just a speaker connector that you buy, from your average Pep Boy type place. That when you put the front on, the connections all make. And we turn the headlights on, everything still works like a street car. Because this car has headlights, turn signals, horn. It's street driven daily, weather permitting. Well, when we got the car from Chuck, it had a Lenko and a clutch in it. And that's one of the things I wanted to change because I have a relationship with Bruno Massel from Bruno's Racing Transmissions. And I really would rather run a Bruno automatic in all my cars just because obviously the relationship, but it makes life simpler. I'm sorry, it just makes life a lot simpler to run one of those Transes. So we had to take the clutch pedal out and mount an automatic. Now, while that sounds like something easy to do, it really was difficult because this car was built around having a clutch in it and not having a pan underneath your transmission like your automatic has. So we hired Bob Hood up in Wisconsin to do everything as far as mounting the automatic transmission in the car. He did everything. He mounted the intercooler tank, the transmission, the slides for the trans. He modified the shifters so that they were closer to me so that I felt more comfortable in the car. He really, really did a lot of stuff. His work's second to none. And while it was up there, we actually hired Metz Performance, Brian Metz, to help us think out the rear suspension a little differently. Since we had an automatic in the car, we felt that Metz Performance was the place to take it to get the car to work well. So Brian Metz was a big help to us as far as getting the car down the track physically without second guessing ourselves. With his experience, it was nice. We knew that the first run it would go down the track. Now we just have to figure out how much power to give it and the things to do to make that happen. The choice of the car, what's really funny about it is this is the car I wanted to build originally for this class. So when we first got it back from Chuck, it's everything you could ask for. I mean, what's nice about this car, even compared to my Corvette, the driver's compartment is more comfortable. The lines of the car, I just love the lines of this car. It's a very clean car. This car seems like it'll go through the wind nicely. If you look at the windshield angle compared to a '69 Camaro, if you look at that, you'll realize how can it not go faster than an old car with a windshield rake that's basically like straight up and down. The doors fit nicer. Everything's just a nicer vehicle compared to the old cars. While I'm a lover of 65 Impalas or 69 Camaros, I just can't see going out there and building a car to try to go 220 miles an hour that has that shape. This car seems to have an inherent advantage, I think. Maybe it's minimal, but I enjoy the way the car looks. I think it's a good-looking car, but I also think it's the way to go as far as aerodynamics for a 220 mile an hour car. At least that's the goal. The car sits really low. Chuck jammed everything up into there. Chassis engineering really went out of their way to make sure everything fits in this car tight and nice. This car does not have a lot of wasted space. The interior is basically made out of all carbon fiber. All the panels are custom made for this car because it's not a Pro Stock where you know every one of these panels is going to be a certain way. This car, all these panels had to be made, and they were made down at Chassis Engineering for this car. Because it goes over 200 miles an hour, you need 2 parachutes. We chose to not use the CO2 launched chutes. These are the Stroud chutes that are all mechanical with the spring launchers in them. I would prefer to use those because we use so much CO2 on things like the Bruno and the boost controller already. I want this to never give me a failure, so it's a basic mechanical thing. And it hasn't given me any problems yet. The chutes work great. And then finally, the thing that I couldn't take out of the car was little Chucky had to have his Hawaiian girl. I don't know what that does, but she seems to get very nervous when she's in the car, I know. And then, of course, the food comes from DiAgostino's Pizza. Gotta eat good pizza from Chicago if you want to go faster. Apparently, if you want to gain weight.